I guess we'll get things started. So I just want to thank everyone for coming. We really do appreciate the support for this. It's the 4th year we've been doing it, and our goal is really just hopefully you come out of this with something. We're trying to provide some information in all different areas that you come out of this with something. We really do appreciate you coming, because if we had a whole bunch of accountants in this room, we'd be in tough shape. But this year we have a bunch of different speakers, all various topics. I don't know if you've seen the agenda, but we're going to be talking about the industry and what's going on. We have employee labor law issues that's going to get put on. Talk about some buy-sell agreements, and then the new FTC safeguard rules is coming out, or potentially coming out, so you got to scare the hell out of you there. And then we'll have some tax updates at the end. I really want to, before we start, I just want to thank all the speakers that are going to be speaking, for taking the time and putting the presentation together, and also for presenting. I also want to thank the Dave Canton Group for sponsoring lunch that we're going to have later today. So without further ado, I'm going to get this thing started. The first person's coming up is going to be Bob Okanowski. He's going to talk a little bit about the industry and where we're at. So if you can welcome Bob. Bob, you want to come up?
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. No PowerPoints. I hate PowerPoint. So this is easy. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for being here. Thank you to O'Connor and Drew for putting this all on for our partners and our dealers, member dealers, and others in the industry. I'm going to give you a 40,000-foot overview about a lot of things, a lot of different things that are going on. For example, you have Jeff Fritz that's going to get more in depth on some of the employment law stuff. But probably since May 8th, the one thing that has taken up probably 90% of my time on a daily basis has been the Sleepy's decision that the SJC handed down in answering a couple questions that they received from the federal court on this litigation, wage hour litigation. The main takeaway that you would receive from Sleepy's is a couple points. The court got into how you pay overtime and Sunday holiday premium pay, basically saying that you cannot use commissions to cover those costs. And so as of May 8th, we've spent a lot of time dealing with dealers and their attorneys on how to best craft a pay plan that works for your dealership, that takes into account the post-May 8th rules on not using commissions to cover overtime and Sunday and holiday premium pay. We put out a lot of communications, written communications from our office at MSADA. We also answer a lot of phone calls on a daily basis on a whole host of issues, but we've been spending a lot of time on this issue. If you haven't had competent counsel review your pay plans by now, if you haven't made the necessary changes to be in compliance with the rules going forward from May 8th, then I don't know what you're waiting for, because what are we going? Well, this is probably the 5th month by now that we've been dealing with this issue. And if you haven't at least had your pay plans reviewed, I would submit to you that it should be the first thing that you do when you get back to the office, or at least tomorrow morning. It's important to, moving forward, to get in compliance with the Sleepy's decision as it relates to those 100% commission-paid pay plans. And you can extrapolate even further that anyone receiving commissions could have some sort of impact because of Sleepy's. So we have a number of attorneys that we work with at the association, bless you, that can help you on that. And so if you need someone, contact us at the office, and we can steer you in some direction that would get you some assistance there. Looking at the pre-Sleepy situation, there were a handful of cases that had already been started to work their way through the system on the whole issue of overtime pay, commissions, Sunday holiday pay. We've been very active at the association, financially supporting one of those cases so that we can get to some resolution on these issues that the courts are reviewing and that Sleepy's tried to address. So since Sleepy's, there have been almost 80 cases, lawsuits that have been filed against dealers, against other retailers that use 100% commission-paid plans. And there are a number of different factors that are at play with each of those cases. Not every case is the same. There's some fundamental issues that are derivative of Sleepy's. But for example, if a dealer has not done the basic of keeping of accurate punch cards for their employees, they're going to be in trouble, because there's no way you're going to be able to accurately prove to a court that that employee actually worked 42 hours or 46 hours or 39 hours. So if we've been doing a wage hour guide for 20 years, I believe on page 6, within the first 10 pages of the book, we have basic rules that dealerships should be following to keep track of your employees, keep track of their hours, how to best use their time, and not get in trouble. So we mailed out, we had our most recent wage hour guide. We did it in November of 18, and we mailed out a free copy to every dealership. We also have it on our website. If you need a copy, we'll get it to you. Obviously, that some of the stuff is going to be in flux because of Sleepy's, but the bulk of that book is pertinent to dealership operations, and like I said, we've been doing it for 20 years. And if you're not familiar with some of these guidelines and such, feel free to give us a call. So on the Sleepy's thing, you've got the decision. You've got litigation. There's a number of cases that dealers are battling right now, that the bottom-feeding plaintiffs' attorneys that are out there are recruiting employees, current employees, ex-employees, trying to gin up work for themselves. The bulk of the lawsuits, they're looking for treble damages. They're looking for going back 3 years on unpaid overtime. There's a 12% statutory interest penalty, and plus there's attorney's fees involved. So if you think you may have a situation that hasn't been litigated yet or initiated, talk to counsel, try to figure out, get ahead of your problem. If you are being sued, good luck to you. We are there to support our dealers in these efforts. And like I said, we're financially supporting a particular litigant right now so that we can get some resolution on these issues to the plus side for our dealers. And the third aspect of Sleepy's I would touch upon is legislation. On July 15th, Chris Conley, our MSADA president, and we sat down with the Speaker of the House. We sat down with the governor, and we've had a number of conversations with the Senate president on potential legislative fix for this Sleepy's decision and what it means for businesses. The governor, as a result of those meetings, filed legislation a couple weeks back to try to resolve this issue to the positive side for retailers. The House did not take up the legislation in its supplemental budget this past week. The Senate is not taking up the language, but the Senate is creating a task force to look at the problem. Legislative leaders are fully aware of what the Sleepy's case means for a financial impact on the industry, not just our industry, but other retailers, and the potential adverse effects of closing down dealerships and other stores, and the hundreds of the thousands of employees that potentially could be sidelined as a result of those business decisions. Many dealerships have already responded to the Sleepy's problem by shutting down on Sundays because the legislature screwed up on how to handle Sunday pay. And also as a way to rein in employee costs. You've also seen changes in compensation plans based on reduced commissions. So there's a lot of impact that's going on. We're working hard at the State House to get some legislative relief on this issue. And I'm a very patient man. You have to be a very patient person when you're dealing with some of the stuff we deal with, especially when you're dealing with legislators, whether it's up here or in Washington. I know I deal with a lot of impatient people on a daily basis. I can't help you there. Hopefully some of my patience will wear off, but it can be a very frustrating process. There's no promises in that building, and there's no guarantees in that building, but we keep hammering away, and hopefully we'll get some positive resolution on the legislative side as it relates to sleepies. Certainly the attorneys are working overtime on our side of the equation to try to get a fix on the problems. The second thing I'd like to touch upon is legislation itself. There's a number of bills that are up at the State House that we're supportive of, and there's some key ones that we're opposing. For example, we've been working hard to get some legislation passed to allow for a temp tag program, so that there's already a temp tag law that exists. It's been in books since Ed King was governor back in the late 70s. The RMV has never implemented the law, so we've got legislation that would get that implemented and get it out there so our franchise dealers could take advantage of some temp tag program, so that you can get cars registered quickly, especially on out-of-state sales and other situations. We have a franchise bill up there that would deal with some on the recalls, the used vehicle recalls issue, on facility upgrades, on chargebacks by manufacturers if cars get exported without dealers' knowledge. There's 9 or 10 issues that are addressed in there, whether it's changing your areas of responsibility, whether it's trying to steal your customer data. So be aware of that. If you need more information on that, always contact us at the office. We have legislation on labor rates that would hopefully get the auto body, the insurance company reimburse rate up. Right now, it's the lowest in the country. We are at, on average, about $38 an hour on the auto body labor rate reimbursement. So there's legislation in play there that would hopefully create a process that would get that number up, hopefully, into the higher 40s at least. The couple issues to be aware of that are not friendly to dealers would be that we've got right to repair coming back. We did a right to repair deal that took care of dealers on the positive side a number of years ago. The right to repair community is not happy with the deal that was struck. Now what they're seeking for is, they claim that they're still not getting information, but what they really want is the communications that go from the car to the factory, to the dealer, to the customer, to the car owner. And what they want to do is intercept that information and have it fed directly to independent repairers. So it would bypass the factory, it would bypass the dealer, and strictly be a communication that would then flow from the independent repairer, the car owner. And so that's a very dangerous piece when you think about it. So when you see these ads, when you see writings on it, and you see reporters not even scratching the surface of the issue to dig down to what it's all about stealing information, whether it's your information, whether it's factory information. They want it. They want to use it to boost the independent repair community to the detriment of dealers and the factories. And really, when you think about it, there is so much information that is contained in the vehicle. It can tell you if you lost weight, for crying out loud. I mean, it really can. I mean, they've got sensors that are that sensitive, and there's so much personal information that flows in the vehicle. The big challenge is getting legislators to focus on how dangerous these information grabs are. So we've got that, and along the lines of consumer protection, we also have, I don't know if we've written about this several times now, but in California they passed the Consumer Protection Act for personal information and such that businesses maintain for their customer base. We have that bill filed here now. It's much more dangerous than what was passed in California. The hearing on it was 2 weeks ago at the State House. We testified against it. We also told them that if something's going to move, we need some carve-outs for this industry to protect what dealers do on behalf of their customers. So that's going to be a fluid process as well. So we've got a number of things going on at the State House. So far we've covered sleepies. We've covered ongoing legislation. In terms of what we see on the factory dealership relations side, the factories are looking, as you know, you live it every day, are getting more and more into the businesses of the dealers. They're getting more and more into your pockets. They are engaging in extreme amounts of more cost shifting to dealers. You see whether it's on warranty reimbursement, whether it's they're trying to steal your customer data, whether it's on facility upgrades. There's a whole host of issues that manufacturers are, it's like the enemy prodding the perimeter to see where they can find the weak points and try to penetrate your operations. There's 30 manufacturers that do business in this Commonwealth, and they all engage to various levels of subterfuge and other types of adverse activities against dealerships, despite what their face may say to you and wanting to be partners. I hear that all the time at the State House. Whenever they testify against our bills, they say, we're partners with our dealers. We want to work with our dealers, yet they're always trying to stick it to us. And we spend more time fighting the manufacturers than we do consumer activists sometimes. And so we see an uptick in that quite a bit, especially based on the calls we get from dealers and some of the things I see from attorneys. Finally, bless you. Finally, I just want to touch briefly on where the industry is as we see it at the association. As much as the Dems and the press want us to be led into a recession, when you see the metrics, they're fairly strong still. We have a strong economy in this country. We probably have the strongest economy in the world right now. We have probably the strongest economy of the 50 states in this state right now. And if you spend any time on the road, you can see that all these people are going somewhere in the morning. All these people are coming back from somewhere at night, and they're going to jobs, whether they're full-time jobs, part-time jobs, maybe they got 2, 3 jobs. Regardless, we're now below 2% unemployment in this Commonwealth. So you have a lot of people working. You have a lot of money coming in. There's a lot of money going to the Commonwealth in terms of taxes. They just did a supplemental budget. They had so much money left over. They had $1 billion left over from when they did the budget. They closed the last fiscal year. They needed to do something with it. So they spent a big chunk of it earlier in the year, and they had $700 million to work with this time around. So when you see these politicians talking about we need more money, and they want to raise taxes, there's plenty of money. It's just they don't spend it wisely. When you see it on an everyday basis, it really is mind-boggling how much revenue is coming into the state extra because you have this thriving economy here, and they just can't spend it fast enough. And so when you look at what's going on up there, the talk of taxes, there's a longer play that you got to keep in mind. You have this millionaire's tax again that's going to be on the ballot at some point. And if you think of the timing, they want to have the millionaire's tax in play at a point in time when a recession does come, where they can be able to jack up taxes on people that are not middle-class people. Because right now, if they were to do a tax hike, it would be on everyone across the board. They wouldn't be able to single out tranches of income levels. So if you think about this, once this millionaire's tax does go through, and it will go through, they will have a progressive income tax system in place that they will be able to play with the rates and play with the income levels at some point in time down the road, which would give them plenty enough room to play with taxes when a recession hits and they don't have to jack up taxes on middle-class people. That's really the long-term play here. So just keep that in mind as you talk with your accountants and try to figure out the best way to structure your pay plans, your personal situations, your business situations moving forward. Finally, well, not finally, but, two quick things. We're going to see taxes on, well, they're going to do something on transportation as well, infrastructure, other types of things. There's this whole movement afoot to get people out of cars, or at least get them out of cars at certain periods of time during the day. They've talked about various tolling mechanisms, whether the tolls will be doubled between 7 and 9, and then lessened after that, trying to get people off the roads at certain peak times. They're looking at that. They're looking at gas taxes. They're looking at other types of revenue enhancements that are based on getting more money to the public, the T, the buses, the commuter rail, et cetera. They're already grabbing a penny of the 6 1/4 sales tax for the T. They may change that. Certainly, they're looking to try to manipulate commuters' traveling experiences to inflict pain or reward based on what you're doing, where you're going, and when you're going. So keep that in mind too, as you wonder about what happens to car sales down the line. And finally, EVs. Everyone talks about EVs. No one wants to talk about the real cost of EVs on putting together the electricity, having the infrastructure in place to have enough electricity to support an EV program in 10, 15, 20 years. The EV rebate program ended in this state on September 30th. Please do not continue with any advertising until they put some more money into the program and revitalize it. In the recent supplemental budget the governor filed, there was $32 million to refund the program. The House went with the $32 million and included a cap of $40,000 on qualifying vehicles. The Senate is going to do the bill. Right now they've proposed a little less than the $30 million for the program. Depending on what gets approved by the Senate, they'll have to have this resolved in a conference committee with the House. And the Senate did not right now have any cap on the price of the vehicle. So the program that ended on the 30th had a $50,000 cap on the vehicles, the details of any new program will be resolved between the House and the Senate in a conference committee over the next couple weeks, so that they can close the books on the last fiscal year. The mandates are still in place, where we're going to have 330,000 vehicles on the road in a few years, registered as EVs, in order to meet some mandates that the unelected California Air Resource Board put in place a number of years ago. It's great that we are doing our state policy based on what California wants to do. We'll see where that all goes, because there's pieces of it being challenged by the Trump administration. And that's where we're at, I think, right now on a number of key points. Real upbeat. Good morning. Any questions? There's got to be one question.
Why do you think the millionaire's tax will go through?
Well, because people, if you just look at the polls, people want higher taxes on people who are perceived to be wealthier and have more resources to spend on things that they feel the money should go for, whether it's schools, whether it's infrastructure, you name it, they want it. So the polling, I'm just based on the polling. I think when you get down to it, we are, for some reasons, a very liberal state. We can be very conservative on things, as well, but overall, we're a very liberal state, and when people are promised free money that they don't have to come up with, to go for things that they feel we should be spending more money on. Just like what Warren put out the other day. She put out a whole, what was it, $800 billion for K through 12 education? I mean, come on, where's that going to come from? That's pie in the sky dream. And it's a situation where, growing up, the feds were never involved in never involved in state education policy. It's only been the last 20 years or so that there are more carrots and sticks on how to get more federal money to local schools. And if she's gonna throw out $800 billion more for education programs for the states, it's got to come from somewhere.
But on the millionaire's tax, one of the reasons that I recall that it was overturned was because it's against the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So how are they going to get around that?
Because what they had done in the first time around is they had the stuff earmarked for specific things without any type of appropriation from the legislature. Now the money is just going to go into the general pot, and it'll be divvied up that way.
That will avoid any constitutional violation.
So far, it is, yeah. They made the changes to it based on the SJC opinion last time around. That kept it off the ballot.
That's what I was focusing on. Is
Yeah, no, they made the changes, and, they'll go through the process to get it on. And because right now we're not allowed to have a graduated income tax. That's what they've ultimately, the graduated income tax has been on the ballot, I think, at least in my time. I've been up there since '85, 3 years, 3 times now, 3 times, and it's been shot down each time. But this one is specifically geared towards certain villainous behavior that they feel needs to be penalized, namely being a millionaire. Anything else? Yes, sir. I'm sorry? No, it was just a matter of the whole supplemental budget is designed to close out spending for the last fiscal year. Okay, so the last fiscal year, FY19, ended on June 30th. So you have a period of time to clean up your accounts, spend any money you need to spend by the end of October. And so the governor filed a number of things in his supplemental budget. One of it was the language on sleepies. The House is very sympathetic. House leaders are very sympathetic to addressing the problem that's been created by sleepies. The Senate is just as enthusiastic about trying to fix the problem and recognizes what the problem is. They are, I would say, trying to figure out the best way to proceed with it politically in order to do something to address the problem. And given the short period of time that they had from the bill filing to the dealing with the politics of the building and dealing with a solution, ultimate solution that would work, they need more time. So
Where's the opposition coming
the plaintiff's attorneys, that's where it primarily came from. I think the AFL-CIO chimed in once. They're not well liked right now for whatever reason up there, which is not my business to get into. But they kind of backed off. It was primarily the plaintiff's attorneys that were rabble-rousing on it, one of whom sits on Ways and Means Committee and is the vice chair of the Consumer Protection Committee in the House. So
what you're saying is you think the plaintiff's bar has some strength?
no, I think in a short period of time that they were able to muddy the waters enough that where they're trying to close the books in the next fortnight to deal with a heavy lift like that, it wasn't politically opportune right now to do it. So hence the Senate is going to create a task force, get that rolling after the holidays, create some foundation for doing something legislatively, and go from there. Eventually there will be. I don't think right now there's nothing to do. Let's get the task force up and running. Let's get the people appointed to it. And then let's start making our case for why the problem needs to be addressed, and here's our solution. Did that get your question? Did that answer your question? Anyone else? Well, I'll be around all day. I'm at the association 24/7, 365. You can always call there, text me, email. I'm off on emails, but calling and texting is easy. I'm always up. But again, thank you for O'Connor and Drew putting this on together. And we really appreciate the opportunity to be here today. And again, if you need anything, give us a call. Thank you.